There came to the point where I just knew that this was not the life I was meant to live. God did not want me to lead a life with a man that was going to be abusive in so many ways.
Kristen Constantino is a certified toxic relationship repair coach and founder of KC Coaching. Through her Shining method, she helps women heal from emotional abuse, rebuild confidence, and rediscover who they truly are. This is such a personal topic. You're helping people that are in toxic relationships, but you're also helping them get out of it. You're helping them heal beyond that as well.
Then became even more toxic with a lot of emotional and mental abuse. And it got into spiritual abuse. Eventually, he was physically abusive, and I felt trapped. It was almost like I felt like I didn't have a choice. Once again, I looked in the mirror and just didn't recognize the person I was.
When you were at that moment in your life, how did it feel in your body when you're at your lowest point?
It's not about, fixing who you are solely. It's more so remembering who you've always been.
Hi, and welcome to Radical TV. I'm Shawna Smith. Joining me here today is Kristen Constantino. She is a relationship expert, a certified toxic relation repair coach, a teacher, and founder of KC Coaching. She helps women break free from toxic relationships, heal their self-worth, and rebuild confidence using her signature Shining method. With a background in education, nutrition, and mental wellness, Kristen blends practical tools with deep emotional support to guide women from heartbreak to empowerment. Kristen, hello and welcome.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Yes, we were just talking a little bit prior to hitting record. This is such a personal topic. It's an important topic. And tell us a little bit about how, well, obviously you're helping people that are in toxic relationships, but you're also helping them get out of it. You're helping them heal beyond that as well. This is super powerful. Give us a little background.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Thanks for asking. I always had a conviction within my soul to want to help and serve women. Prior to doing this work, I have been helping women in their physical wellness. So I have been coaching women with, weight loss or, just being healthy overall. And there was something that I knew that there was a missing component to that. And I felt a lot of it was a mindset. And about 7-8 years ago, I got into a relationship that I thought was my soulmate. We got engaged. He had 2 beautiful children that I fell in love with. And slowly but surely, I realized now after the fact, I was being trauma bond and going through that process with him. Unfortunately, he was or is an undercover addict to pain medication, amongst other things. So there was a lot of abuse within that relationship. In the beginning, it started actually in the financial abuse department. And I know he was trying to build my trust by asking, like, for $5 here, can I buy gas? And I remember reflecting on this as a 34-year-old woman thinking, why is my boyfriend at the time asking me for gas money? He should be equipped in that area at this point. But there was always that helper in me and the desire to fix people. And in fact, the reason why we got connected was because I was helping him with his health and helping him in the area of growth there. And so that's how we got started. And, it then became even more toxic with a lot of emotional and mental abuse. And it got into spiritual abuse, a little sexual abuse, like holding that against me. And then eventually he was physically abusive. And to me, it was my sounding alarm. And it was that pivotal point of, okay, I'm not used to this. This is not something I'm accustomed to. And I don't want to have this in my life with a partner. How do I make the shift? And, I'm a woman of faith, and I was praying to God. I was fasting. I was like, do I need to stay with this man and help him? At the time, I didn't realize he had this addiction to pain medication. I knew he had addictions to other things, but I wasn't super clear on how deep the addictions went. But I wanted to help and serve. And there came to the point where I just knew that this was not the life I was meant to live. God did not want me to lead a life with a man that was going to be abusive in so many ways. And so I finally broke free from that relationship. And during the healing process, I asked myself a question. I asked, what needs to change in me in order to not allow these type of people to come into my life anymore, and learn how to set the boundaries around that? Because naturally I have a heart to give and to see the best in others. But, that comes with a price if you're not careful in setting boundaries around it. So I went down this journey of, self-awareness, healing, and inner strength to help empower myself back again. Because what I didn't realize prior to my ex-fiance, because of how extreme the abuse was compared to some of my other past long-term relationships, I had a very horrible pattern when it comes to being with men who are mentally and emotionally abusive. And I like to call that abuse the silent killer, especially if you are empathic and you have a personality type that does want to help and give. You always feel like, or the fixer, you always feel like you can do something better to make the relationship stronger. And I also didn't realize it was something I tolerated, that type of abuse, based on my childhood. And to this day, I'm forever grateful that my ex put his hands on me, because it changed my life for the better going forward. And that's where my passion comes in helping women break free from this awful pattern so they can rebuild their confidence, rediscover their strength, their most authentic self beneath that pain, beneath the abuse, because it's always been there. You just need to learn how to set the boundaries around it.
When you were at that moment in your life, how did it feel in your body when you're at your lowest point? And what were you telling yourself? You kind of told us what you were telling yourself, but what were you feeling?
I mean, I was at an all-time low. I'm someone who's very passionate about physical wellness, and I found myself, still going through the motions and doing a morning routine and, being connected in the spirit and my faith. But once again, it was just, I was going through the motions, and I felt that I was being buried and I felt trapped in the relationship. It was almost like I felt like I didn't have a choice because of how strong my people-pleasing codependency was, how strong my codependency in fixing others was. I felt like I needed to stay in this relationship so I can help that person. And once again, I looked in the mirror and just didn't recognize the person I was. I was drinking wine every night. My mind was foggy, waking up in the morning. I felt sluggish. I didn't have the desire to want to help and coach anybody anymore. So my business was failing. And once again, I just felt like a zombie going through the motions, and, and also feeling like a nag because I constantly was getting frustrated with my ex because he would give me a lot of false promises. And I would call him out and nothing would change. But once again, going back to my codependencies, because the only person that you really can control is yourself, my desire to help him change was stronger than the desire at that point before I finally had the courage to break the ties. It was stronger than having the freedom and being my most authentic self, and being who I stand for.
Wow. And so you developed the Shining Method. Tell us what that is and walk us through the steps.
Absolutely. So the Shining Method is an 8-week, what I like to call like a soul restoration journey. And it's designed to guide women from the rubble of relationships into this radiant wholeness, if you will. And it's not about, fixing who you are solely. It's more so remembering who you've always been. And this is for women who's just poured out of an empty cup for way too long. It's a self-blend reflection of, with somatic release and spiritual realignment. And the Shining Method helps you rebuild from the inside out. So it's a step-by-step process to heal after a toxic relationship. And it guides women through rebuilding and self-awareness, healing, inner strength, nourishment, identity, new boundaries, and growth, so that you can truly rise above that pain that you have experienced for so many years, or maybe from multiple relationships, so you can return back to that most confident self that you were prior to it, because that's where we're always meant to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not meant to be buried down into and regressing from what we've built prior. So in those steps for self-awareness, clarity, as I mentioned, I asked myself the question, what needs to change in me? So that portion is really about recognizing toxic patterns, uncovering some of these limiting beliefs. Because I know for myself, I also feel like deeply rooted down, just even back from, once again, childhood, always rooted in childhood, right? In grade school, middle school, not feeling good enough, not feeling that I deserved true love. And I remember always being praised in my family for how I looked and I was so beautiful. And I held on to that. My brother is extremely scholarly. He's excellent with testing. He's great with, what they call book smart. I was more of the street smarts. So I never was highlighted in school in that way. Always at home, highlighted for the way I looked. And then I get into middle school. I, had my 7th grade. Boys were liking me. And then all of a sudden it stopped. So I really held so much value in just the way I looked as opposed to looking inward. And at that time, I didn't have my faith and didn't know who I was inwardly. And so I always just didn't feel like I was good enough. So uncovering those limiting beliefs and understanding how your past experiences shaped their present. And then H is for healing after toxic relationships. So it's restoring that mental and emotional wellness, really reprogramming the subconscious patterns that you built from those childhood experiences, and just rediscovering who you are. And then inner strength and resilience. That's just building emotional regulation so you can trust yourself again. I remember thinking after this relationship with my ex-fiance, I'm like, I'm never going to find a man. I'm never going to find somebody that is aligned in all the values that I have. Thankfully, I did find that. So that's part of my journey as well, knowing I have the results, not just with me, but even clients myself, being able to find a partner, not a project, right? Somebody that is going to partner with you and help encourage you, accept you for who you are. So, being able to just bounce back from setbacks, because they're going to happen. Setbacks are, no matter what, no matter how hard you work on yourself, they're going to happen, but it's learning the strategies on how to overcome it, and be resilient, and no longer being controlled by fear and self-doubt, because that's so strong when you have come out of, like, that feeling is so strong when you've come out of a toxic relationship, or multiple, or one that has been for a decade or 2 decades. And I've seen that not within myself, because my ex-fiance and I were only together for 2 years. And then my a toxic relationship that I had in the past, my longest relationship of 5 years, that was 5 years. But my clients, I've seen it with them, of being abused for decades upon decades. The good news is you can come back from that. And one of my favorite parts of the method is nourishment of the mind, body, and spirit, because it truly is a trifecta. You can be exercising and lifting weights and have the most remarkable physique, but if you're not also working on nourishing the mind and the spirit, you won't feel completely whole. So I like to teach women how to fuel their bodies with healing foods, practice self-care rituals, and cultivate this spiritual alignment so your whole being thrives, and you're not just in that survival mode that you have experienced for so long in these toxic relationships. And then the identity reclaiming is just, peeling back the layers of who you were told that you were. I know with my ex-fiance, would call me fake, phony, you're not real. I had this one password saying like something like, I believe in myself. And he's like, that's such a joke. That's ridiculous. But you're now reconnecting with your authentic self. And they do that to help break you down, so you're more dependent on that person. It's a, manipulation technique and a control technique that they utilize to help break that down. And so you're dependent on them. So you can embrace your unique gifts, your passions, and your values. And then the last two is new boundaries and self-worth, helping women set and learn how to communicate them. Because I know with my personality type, so we go through a lot on personality training and types, it's hard for me. I like to be more passive aggressive. Just naturally. I want to, sweep things under the rug, because I feel like I don't want to stir anything up. I don't want to cause conflict. But in reality, when we're not expressing and communicating in a disarming way, then truly what's going to happen is it's going to make the situation that much worse. And you're not helping and serving anybody when you're just allowing them to walk all over you, when you're just allowing them to walk down a path that is ultimately going to hurt them. So not communicating is because you want to avoid conflict is actually more harmful for both parties. And then just hold healthy boundaries in relationships. And then the last one is growth and future vision, because a man without a vision will perish. And what I realized, because I did a lot of leadership, a lot of this program comes from some of the leadership training that I was doing for 3 years consistently. And what I realized was that I didn't have a vision for a partner. I had a vision for what I wanted vocationally. I had a vision for what I want financially, but I really didn't set that vision up for myself with an actual partner and what I wanted. And I remember being scared to set a deal breaker of, I want a man with the same faith as me, because I was living in Chicago at the time. I was surrounded by a lot of non-believers. And I'm like, you know what? No, because I want a family one day. And this is something that's important to me. And I want to be no conflict. This is my partner that I'm going to live with. Of course, I'm going to accept people of all beliefs. But when it comes to my partner, this is a deal breaker, and I'm not going to back down from that. So, equipping women with the tools for lasting transformation, goal setting, vision mapping, in all areas of your life. I have like about 10 different areas that you can work through and decide based on priorities and, where you're at in all those areas where you want to focus on, so that you can create a life of joy, love, abundance, beyond the pain that they experience.
Wow. What makes you different with your approach that you have, Kristen?
Well, I think, first of all, just everybody has their own, once again, unique method, right? And I think it's about the connections that you make. Once again, I'm a woman that is passionate about wanting to help and serve. And I'm committed to ensuring that you have success. I'm committed to ensuring that you're held accountable, because this path of healing is not easy. And you need somebody strong and resilient on your side. So another thing is, I talked to some of the women in regards to going to therapy, and I am a huge advocate for that. The one thing that is different from a therapist to a coach is that, of course, I can understand what you've been through and can, sympathize in that area. Whereas a therapist, you just don't know. So I think it really boils down to how are you resonating with that person? I know I had to shop around quite a bit when it comes to coaches, after I released the relationship that was toxic and abusive. I had to shop around when it comes to therapists. So, with my experience when it comes to education, nutrition, and the mental wellness, alongside the fact that I understand what you've been through. So also, I'm a woman of faith. So if that resonates with you, I think that would also make us a really good match when it comes to helping you lead down this path of healing and empowerment.
Mm-hmm. It's so important to have somebody that completely understands what you're going through, because not everyone understands when a person has been through something like that. What's the biggest lie that your target audience has been told about this industry that you have found out is a complete lie or completely false?
Finding that perfect match in X amount of time. Giving that timeline, because ultimately everybody has different layers to heal from. I always compare it to peeling back the onion. And if you're hearing an advertisement about, I can find your perfect match in 8 weeks or less, I would be weary of that, considering that person doesn't know anything about your story. They don't know what you have been through. And that healing journey is without a doubt not linear. And I see it with the clients that I have worked with over the years, that, I have some that are already married within a year of healing. I have some that have taken a couple years of working on themselves. So everybody is different in their healing path, and in understanding it and having grace, I think, is really important when you're on this journey of healing and empowerment.
And when did you realize that your own personal transformation was to become, your method of helping other people?
Honestly, I felt it was a calling. I just felt called in helping others overcome it, because I know how much pain I was in prior to being healed, and with my background in leadership trainings and all the things that I did to be certified in mental wellness. And I knew I needed to shout the information on a mountaintop. I knew I needed to share this information with others. And the deeper calling, I think, for me in this work is not just for the person I'm working with. It's the ripple effect that will happen from it. And I am a huge advocate in raising our next generation right, with helping them, discover who they are, and, having healthy relationships themselves. And that starts in the home. I saw it personally with my bonus kids at the time, and how painful it was for them, and how much of a shell they had, and how guarded they were. And as you know, we all are rooted in codependencies from our childhood. So when a child is raised in a home that is healthy, that has communication, I mean, that can change the world, right? So bigger picture wise, and even teaching in the classroom, I've seen my students come in and talking about the arguments they heard and how much pain it's led them, and how it's impacted their schooling in a negative way. So I think bigger picture is also the ripple effect that's going to be happening when I'm working with these women and these mothers down the road. I think that's really important.
Who specifically do you feel called to serve?
I feel specifically called to serve mothers because of that reason, that, are worried about not leading by example. I feel that's a huge, and I'm not a mother yet myself, but as I mentioned, I've been around children all my life. Vocationally, I'm an educator in the classroom. And ever since I was a young girl, like, I've always been the babysitter at family parties. I have a knack for the youth. And so that's one reason. Or a woman that is in, so I have a couple. The other person I feel called to serve is the woman that's in their 20s, 30s, and feels broken and lost and doesn't know exactly what next steps to take when it comes to their relationship journey and having a strong partner in their life. And they're sick and tired of dating the same man with a different mask, essentially, right? So they need to break that. And so those are the two main women that I feel called to serving.
And is there anything that breaks your heart about what you're seeing happening in your industry?
I think what breaks my heart, and I've noticed this myself, is they don't feel that they're worthy to invest in themselves. Ultimately, these are the lies that they're told when they're with these men. And I want to be that voice for them, to let them know that if you can invest in, or, pay for this $300 purse, you're worth more than that. And, sometimes, like, I'm thinking, like, should I make this nonprofit, make it free? I know I've been financially abused, and I understand how that feels. And I feel like I will have some sort of nonprofit sector to this method, because I find that to be important. But the one thing that I have learned, even from my leadership trainings, when you make something free, it devalues the energy exchange. And that's something that I just am heartbroken by, some women that have a hard time feeling valuable enough to put that investment, because truly, you won't even recognize yourself in the mirror anymore in a positive way when you make the decision to do the inner work that is needed to overcome this awful pattern.
What would the world look like if everybody knew what you know?
This. I feel the self-awareness piece alone, and the spiritual realignment would be such a shift in every single relationship you have. Because often when you have a toxic relationship with a partner or a spouse or a significant other, there are toxic relationships in your life, in the workplace, in your family, in your, extended family. It's all over. And if everybody made the choice and committed to doing the work of this program, they would be able to look in the mirror and see the things that need to shift in order to express who they are and have better communication, and also have the ability to listen to understand. A lot of times when people are battling addiction and when they're battling any type of personality disorder, it's rooted in unresolved trauma. And so I think when you have spiritual alignment and self-awareness and nourishment in your life, that's just going to make every relationship you have better. If your relationships aren't good, it's going to make everything just off in your life. Your career is not going to be good. Your relationships with your friends, I know for me, when I was in toxic relationships, even if they're just mentally and not just, I think it's hard to get over the words, but mentally and emotionally abusive, I pulled away. I didn't connect as much. And we need connection. That is our human nature, is to have significant and strong relationships. That's what fuels our love and passion for the world. And I think it would remove a lot of pain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're so right. Paint me a picture of success. When someone goes through your complete method, what kind of transformation can they expect?
They'll be able to see the part of themselves that they didn't know they had because it was so buried down. Like I mentioned, every single part of their life is going to improve because of it. I've had clients that have been able to get raises because of the confidence that they've built within this program. Like I mentioned, I've had women that have better relationships with their families or have gained an incredible partner in their lives. But most importantly, the relationship that you have with yourself is going to be so much stronger, that you have such deep acceptance and total self-love that you'll be able to exude that energy. And there'll be so many shifts in your life that you'll be like, this is a miracle. Well, no, it's just that energy that you're exchanging and you're working on and being able to exude it out in the world. So now your inner world is matching your outer world. And that's why all the changes in a positive direction are going to be reality.
Can you give us an example, without any names, of a client that you've worked with and you've watched them blossom, going through your transformational process?
Yes. I had a woman that came to me with very low confidence. She did not know how to change. She lacked a lot of boundaries in her life, not just with her past relationships, but also with the workplace and even some friendships. And once she went through the work and, was able to evolve into her most authentic self, I mean, everything just became brighter for her. She continued down the path. She didn't, let up. And eventually she found a person that was truly the vision she wanted, because she created that within the program. And she's happily married. Prior to, she felt like she would never meet anyone. And this woman is in her 50s. So it doesn't mean that, no matter what age you're at, your life is not over, right? And it's not even, 50 is not even old, but sometimes you think, oh my gosh, I'm at this age. Who's going to be out there for me in what I exactly want? But because she shifted inwardly, she was able to experience what she was feeling inside on the exterior. So it was such a beautiful, she'll send me a text and said, I mean, I can't, and it was before they got married. She's like, this is possible. He's coming to Thanksgiving with me and the family. And then over time, she sent me an engagement with her, ring on her finger. And then eventually she sent me a picture of her getting married to a partner that was complimenting her, right? Because we're not whole when we meet somebody. I don't want to give that message. But because she became whole within herself, then she met that person that could partner with her and complement her going forward.
Wow. That truly is a beautiful story. And what can people expect when they work directly with you?
Belief in themselves. Sometimes you have to borrow other people's beliefs before you start believing in yourself. So I think having a strong woman that has been through what you've been through, understands, and is on the other side, can be that cheerleader to say, yes, you too can move this mountain. Sometimes you might trip. Sometimes you might look up and say, oh my gosh, am I ever going to get there? I will be on your side with the shining blueprint to wholeness, to inner confidence. And, based on your progress, like within the program, there's group coaching every single week, because I find that so crucial and important on this journey, is to have a community. To have a community of women that you could share your success with, that you could share your frustrations with. We can talk and coach you through it. And then also, not only that, be a place of safety and accountability, which is so important. And you'll learn how to calm your nervous system down because of the different unique strategies that I'm able to offer you. You'll be able to have opportunities to just completely learn things that you never experience in a traditional school setting. You'll be getting education about yourself. No matter what age you are, you'll be getting that education about yourself that is going to transform every single area of your life.
And what I find sad is, some people don't even know that they're in a situation that they might need to get out of. It gets so buried.
It does.
And I guess that really breaks my heart. For somebody who's listening, what are the cues if you don't really know? I mean, maybe you do deep down, but sometimes it's hard.
It is. I think one huge clue for me when I was within this relationship was that I was crying more than smiling. I was crying secretly more, and I was smiling on the outside. I was
Mm-hmm.
smiling on social media because it goes in waves. The problem in why women feel like, oh, this could work is because you go through the abuser cycle and you go back up to the top, which is the love bombing phase, and you're back reintroduced to the person that you thought they were in the beginning of the relationship. I think recognizing that and asking yourself that question is truly key. Am I crying more than I'm smiling? And that's a sure sign that something needs to change within your relationship, and get realigned with your truth and your core values.
And how can people get in touch with you if they would like to learn more and connect with you?
Absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram. It's just Kristen Constantino. And then you can also find me on Facebook, which is Kristen Constantino. And then on the Facebook page, there's a cover photo that you can click and get my free guide on how to recognize what we just spoke about, how to recognize red flags, and how to overcome them.
Very good. Couple more questions before I let you go. What changed in your business or life since working with the Radical Company that you didn't expect?
First of all, when you invest in, because I've done other coaching programs, and I just never felt the personal connection that I do with the Radical Company. You can tell that they truly care about your success with your business, but not only that, they care about you as a person. And I think right there goes to show that I feel confident in the future of what's to come and how to expand this message. I love all the experience that they hold within the company, and how everybody has their own little expertise. So you can go to anybody at any time and ask them a question, and they will be answered. I love how they've been able to help me dig really deep into what exactly I want to do to help and serve women that are feeling buried and shut down from toxic relationships, and help them just blossom into the people they are. So I just become more reflective in what exactly I want to do with this method, and how I want it to help transform, society and other people's lives.
And if you're talking to someone that's considering the Radiverse, what would you tell them about your experience?
Well, I would say I highly recommend going with the Radical Company because of how much you dig and deeply into what you exactly want to do. You get so much clarity. I feel like you will be welcomed, and you're just truly cared about, and you're going to get the success as long as you follow the directions, right? They can only do so much, so you have to actually be willing to follow the directions of what they're giving you. And yeah, just the one touch button, they do everything. So obviously technology is a big hang up when it comes to trying to start an online business, and that's all done for you. It's very stress-free, I would say, when it comes to working with the Radical Company. And you really have the faith of what kind of growth will be to come.
All right, Kristen Constantino, thank you for joining us on Radical TV today, and thanks for your good work.
It's my pleasure.